Hello and welcome to Access Paranormal. Glad you've joined us tonight for what promises to be a great episode. We've got some fantastic ghost stories from Jack-o'-lantern and the common mystics. In just 5 minutes we'll be kicking off with our monthly spooky adventures with Junior Paranormal, who are a great team led by Gemma and Michael. Then it's the turn of the amazing common mystics, Jennifer and Jill, who will be joining us later with not one but two Boo reviews. First, they will look into the vengeful ghosts of the locomotive number 15 in Lexington, followed up with their second review, The Voyage of Jack Ghost. Also, some quick information. There's also going to be another incredible section coming up very soon. I'm keeping it a secret for now. I'm really looking forward to announcing it very soon. It's going to be a great addition to the show. I've also received a message from someone named Janice over in America, and she shared that her friend Ed purchased a home in Hume in New York, and since moving in have experienced some significant amounts of paranormal activity. The location has even caught the attention of Nick Goff and his wife Tessa from the TV series Death Walker, and they have filmed there to investigate the strange occurrences. I'm also looking forward to talking to Ed, the homeowner, to hear his story firsthand. Once I've recorded it, it will be coming up very soon, so watch this space. Oh, and while it's on my mind, don't forget I've got a book out called Paranormal Investigation Logbook and Journal. And I'm going to read a little bit about what it says on it because I always get this wrong, so I thought I'd read it out to you. It says, this paranormal investigation logbook is customized for recording detailed information during investigations. Each entry contains a record sheet, equipment list, weather conditions, moon phase chart, evidence collection, and a section for debunking. Additionally, there is also a timeline chart for documenting photographs, video footage and audio recordings, as well as a section for important information. There you go. That was easy to read. Well, a little bit. Anyway, it's over there. It's on Amazon. It's actually shown for £12, but it should be £10. And that includes package and postage. Don't forget, it's under Jamie Michael Williams. It's called the Paranormal Investigation Logbook and Journal. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did making it. So there you go. Anyway, I'm not going to go on and on and on now. I'm going to pass it over to the Junior Paranormal and their spooky adventures.
Hello, this is Junior Paranormal Events, the only paranormal group solely for children and young people. I'm Gemma.
I'm Michael.
I'm Finley.
I'm Aubrey.
And thank you for joining us for another in our series of spooky adventures. So this evening we're going to be talking about Champness Hall in Rochdale, which is our headquarters. We are based in the building. We've been investigating in there for over 3 years now, so we've had many experiences, and it's a building that means a lot to us as a family and also to us as a team, and many guests have come on our events and completely fallen in love with the building.
Yeah, so this is focusing on across two events that we had. We had our Christmas get together with our team, which is something we do, and then we had our birthday celebration with our team as well.
Vicky from some of the Haunted Happenings crew was supposed to attend, but on that evening there was really bad snow forecast across the Midlands, and unfortunately that's where most of them were driving from, so they were unfortunately unable to attend, but we had an awesome time, didn't we?
It's also the building that keeps giving, because we keep finding memorabilia stuff that's left.
We do. Just this week I was handed an old pair of shoes that seem to keep appearing at random places in the building. So they've recently reappeared in the hall. Nobody knows how they've got there. And Michael and I have kind of done a bit of research over lunch break today, and we've actually discovered that the Victorian shoes... Yeah,
they seem to match the description of
Victorian area.
A particular Lancashire clog.
Lancashire working clog, yeah. Anyway, they're safe and tucked away in my office now. So I think we're going to share some of our experiences, aren't we? So who wants to get us started?
I will.
Aubrey? Okay. So yours is specifically relating to Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah. So we did this thing where we split it up.
Yeah.
So there was a big group of us who went into the hall, and it was like all quiet. So we all like came out of our spots, and like we got quite bored because like nothing was happening, and we started singing Christmas songs on the stage. And I mean, everyone who was at the like Christmas thing was started peeking through the windows, and they were all watching and filming us. And it was like a great time, and then we stopped for a minute and we went back and some stuff started happening, and then we just did it again and everyone kept on looking.
So when you say some stuff started happening, do you feel that you doing the singing, it was on the stage, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So to those who don't know Champness Hall has got a massive auditorium right in the heart of it that in its heyday could accommodate easily 2,000 people for church services. And it's been used as a performance space ever since. Gracie Fields herself performed on it. So you guys went and stood in it and you sang.
Yeah.
What happened after that? So you said stuff happened. What happened?
Like spirit and like the torches started going like off all the time. And yeah, and then we started hearing some noises.
So what kind of noises?
Like we thought that we heard like George clapping.
Oh, the clapper. Was George back?
Because like one of the people like clapped and we heard like a faint like back.
Okay. So we have several resident spirits at Champness Hall. One of them is called George. Before we knew he was called George, he was lovingly referred to as the clapper, because in the middle of myself and Alison, who's also a trustee, locking up for the evening after an event, not a paranormal event, a music event, we were escorted out of the building by the sound of someone clapping.
You described it as like a well done.
Well done.
Well
it was,
done clap.
excuse me, this is probably going to be really loud, it was like this.
It was, yeah, you described it as a well done, sarcastic clap that
Yes.
followed you every time you did something.
So we
It
have
got
George.
closer and closer.
Yeah, we have
Also
George.
applauded when you've fallen as well.
Applauded. It scared me during the day. I fell over and he clapped. And then I didn't know what to do, so I stood up and curtsied.
So he's a clapper.
He's the clapper, yeah. Finlay, you're going to talk about Shadow Man John, the legend himself. So who's Shadow Man John?
Is he a... I can't remember off the top of it.
It's a solid black
Yeah.
figure, isn't it?
But I can't remember off the top of my head what he did.
No.
No, he's connected to the land at the
Yeah.
front of the building. But
Also-
what does he look like when we see him?
Tall, black.
Like he's wearing a
Yeah.
hat. Like he's got his collar up.
See, the three of you have seen him, haven't
Yes,
you?
I've seen him a couple of times.
And I haven't.
No.
But on this occasion, Finlay, you can
What
tell us
He
the
happened?
story.
wasn't us.
No,
for a
you can
start.
tell her the story of Shadow Man
Harrison.
John with Harrison.
So, at first, Harrison was being a bit, it's not really a thing. And then when we went up into,
Our office space.
yeah, Harrison went and sat in a chair
Facing the doorway.
facing the doorway,
Yeah.
and he saw what could to be described as a black figure, and he screamed,
Yeah.
I screamed,
Yeah,
and then everyone else followed on.
they did. So, Shadow Man John does have a bit of a sense of humour, actually, in that if you're mouthing off about him not being real, he will appear, but that is a space in the building which is our private space. We don't allow anybody up there, do
No,
we?
see, it's a theme with the building
Yeah.
because it's happened with other people where they've mouthed off about it not being,
And then it's like, see, I'm going
and
to show you.
something's happened where they've felt uncomfortable and walked out of the building.
Talking about feeling uncomfortable, Michael, we're going to come over to... Yours is a non-paranormal
Okay, so
related
mine we're going to talk about in the way of how the team's mentality seems to work. So there is a lovely story that goes around about the grey-haired ghost of Champness.
If
And-
you want to find out about that, please message us.
Yeah.
We're not going to say it on here because we don't want to get sued.
Yes. So there is this loving story about the grey-haired man of Champness, and the thing was, this particular evening when it was our anniversary,
Our birthday.
we noticed us up in a particular part of Lady Grace's. We noticed quite a number of the team coming back, quite panicky.
Running.
And some of them came back quite abruptly, and they were like, "There's a man in the building. There's someone in the building." And they were like, "It's an old man. He's got grey hair. He had glasses, and he was looking through the window of the door of the upper level, which is a similar place to where the grey-haired man has been seen before, who is an actual person."
Yeah, the grey hair ghost is not
it's
a real thing.
Go. So we're like going, "Oh my God, there's another person there's a person in the building." Considering we had the whole building locked up,
Yeah.
we knew nobody could have got in.
And our first concern was somebody's broken in.
And our first concern was someone's broken in. One of the people,
Jade.
Alison, who is a security, and she does the security of the building anyway as one of the trustees. And Jade went around the rest of the building to collect the team up, to bring them all back to the beginning and everything.
And we were, in addition to that, there were still some other members of the team in a different part of the building, and we had to it was like security lockdown, get the kids back to the Lady Grace rooms, we're going to shut the doors, we're going to find out where this man is.
Full on panic. Everybody comes back and it's like, "Where did you see the man, Harrison?" And Harrison goes, "He was stood through the window, like where about you are now, Michael. He was stood here." And I went, "When?" And he went, "No, but it was a grey-haired old man
He
with
looked
glasses,
really, really old.
and he looked really, really old." And I looked back at him and went, "I was stood there, and I did peek through the window just to see what was going on. Are you trying to say I was a really old man, Harrison?" And he looked and went, "Well, it could have been. It might have been you."
And then he went,
And then
"It
he
was
went,
you."
"Oh yeah, you look the same with the grey hair and the glasses." In the fact that we'd gone through this full panic mode of everything, because it was
bottom line, there was no old man in the building.
Well,
That we know what. That,
it's debatable. I'm old to some of them, I assume. But it was just such a comic moment where it shows you what people's thought process is at the
Our
time,
team.
and our team mentality
We
was.
did respond to it really well. We got the kids in one place, we locked the kids in. Some of us went off to do a full security check. So, I mean, that was a good test for us.
It was a good test, but the irony was that the person who it actually
was in the room
was
with
already
them.
in the room with them. So, that was my story.
Okay, so I'm going to tell my experience now. So one of our lovely team members, Miss Olivia Dodman, acquired a haunted doll in September this year when we were at a paranormal event that we were presenting at. And Olivia had been complaining that the doll was quiet.
All the Dodmans had been...
In fact, Sarah, Olivia's mum, got in touch with the people that she got the doll from and basically complained. And so I said to Olivia, "Why don't you bring your doll with you? And we'll while we're on our birthday event, we'll take the doll into the office somewhere quiet and we'll have a go at doing some EVP work with it."
Which they had said that she does communicate
Through EVP.
Through EVP.
So I went up to our office with Olivia and Vicky, and the three of us were sat there. And we weren't using anything fancy EVP-wise. It was just the recorder on your phone, like what we're recording this on now. And so we started asking some questions, and we noticed that there was some sort of responses going on. And when we've listened back to it, we are all sat really, really still. And the doll was on a table, and the phone was next to the doll, and nobody was moving, and it was shuffling, like the sound of fabric moving. And that kept on consistently happening. But what was really weird is, again, this is in our office space. We were all sat there, and I'm sat on the sofa, and Vicky sat next to me, and Olivia sat on a different chair next to us. From behind us, we heard a man's voice talking, but it didn't get picked up on the EVP, but it was directly behind us and it was in the room.
Yeah.
And then it happened again over near the door, out the exit to the office, and it sounded like a woman's voice. And then there was a period of time while we were sat in there with the office and we had the door closed, that we heard the door rattling as though somebody was trying to get in. And you and I had heard that before.
We've heard that
during
before.
the day.
So that while that was going on, I was stood outside the door.
You were.
In the room next door.
Where the lift is.
I could see, no, in the other bit where Harrison had looked out
and
of
you
the
could
door.
see the door and there
I
was
could
no
see
one
the
there.
door, and the other people were across in the caretakers. So I could confirm any noises that had happened outside and confirm that there were there was nobody knocking on the door. I didn't hear any of that because you said to me, have you been knocking, and have you had any noises? And the only thing that I said that really they would have heard was the laughter coming from the other room.
It wasn't laughter, though, it was a voice.
Yeah.
So, it was two voices, actually,
so I
inside
could
the
confirm
room.
what noises has happened outside, and obviously your experience was a hell of a lot different than what I could say was happening compared to what was happening with you.
Yeah. So that's just a very brief introduction to our experiences at Champness Hall. We could go on and on and on and on.
You especially.
About our experiences at Champness Hall. But unfortunately we've not got enough time because Jamie only allows us about 15 minutes, which I think we've already gone over. Sorry, Jamie.
Not quite.
Nearly.
We'll be there. We'll make it.
So thank you very much for joining us for our spooky adventure this evening. As I said before, we are Junior Paranormal Events. We are a non-profit group, and we are the only group designed solely for children and young people aged 9 years upwards. We work in partnership with Haunted Happenings now to offer more opportunities for budding junior paranormal investigators to join in and have some spooky fun. You can find us on all forms of social media, and our website is www.juniorparanormalevents.co.uk. So thank you very much for joining us, and until next time, stay spooky.
Bye.
Bye.
So that was Junior Paranormal, a fantastic group of people there. And a huge thank you to Gemma, Michael, Aubrey and Finley for doing this every single month for me. They are brilliant. If you ever get a chance to work with them, do it. They're very professional and very, very welcoming. They are amazing people. I've got an apology to make as well. I've got 2 jack-o'-lantern stories, not one. I didn't mention it at the beginning of the show, so I've got to mention it now because it leads straight onto it. And it's called The Haunted Kilmanian Prison over in Dublin. So sorry about that, Jack, if you're listening, and I'm sorry to the listeners as well. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do, because he's fantastic. So anyway, over to Jack and his ghostly stories.
Have you ever heard of a ghost story so terrifying it stayed on your mind for weeks? If not, you're about to. This is a true ghost story relayed to me around Halloween last year from Daniel. It has to be heard to be believed. My childhood home had always been a little bit rocky. Mum and Dad rarely got along, and I would find myself alone in the bedroom a lot. Not that I minded. Around the age of 18, I moved away to Grandma's about an hour's drive away, just over the Scottish border. Not long after, my parents separated, Mum staying in the family home. It was approaching Christmas 2019. At this point I hadn't seen Mum for around 6 months, so boarded the train home. She greeted me at the door and welcomed me warmly, but I felt something was off. Something perhaps she wanted to tell me. Then she just sputters out with a rather strange smile. "You have a new brother." I almost spat out my hot chocolate. "Sorry, what?" Her bizarre grin stationary on her face, she added, "Well, not literally, but I've got a new dog." And with that, she stood up and opened the kitchen door. I watched in amazement as Mum then stroked and fussed the air, pretending a dog was at her feet. "What are you doing? There's nothing there," I asked, now a little concerned about Mum's welfare. She snapped back, "Don't talk rubbish, he's right here. Come on, Daniel, meet your new fairy brother. His name is Beelzebub." Mum continued this bizarre charade the entire night, throwing a toy ball against the wall, even filling up a food bowl at one point. I debated calling Dad. She clearly wasn't well. The separation must have broken her. Eventually, I made my excuses and went off to bed. Around 2 a.m, I was awoken by my door creaking open, and the sound of a dog's paws against the floorboards. I sat up and squinted in the dark. Nothing was there, at least visually. The bedroom felt different, almost as though the air was crackling around me. In the far corner, I could hear what sounded like the panting of a hungry dog, but I knew it wasn't. There was something evil in my room, and it had Mum under its lies. "You're no dog. You're pure evil. Leave my mother alone," I hissed into the shadows. The panting now turned slowly into the deep breathing of a man, and a large black mass filled the corner of the room in which the sound was emanating. But then, it vanished. But before I could even process what was happening, a voice spoke into my left ear. "If you speak of me to your mother, I'll drag your soul to hell along with hers." And with that, the patter of dog's paws sped out the room and the air returned to normal. This demonic entity had both given me a threatening warning and scared me stiff. That night I lay awake in pure fear, plotting my next move. Grandma was a devout Catholic, and so I rang her first thing in the morning. Being close with the church, she arranged for the priest to visit Mum's house. She put up a fight, convinced her beloved dog was no demon, but eventually she allowed him to bless the house and splash the holy water in every room whilst reciting the Holy Bible. The following day, Mum rang me in tears. She said Beelzebub had ran away in the night. But me and Grandma knew the demon had finally been banished. I just hope next time I visit Mum's house, this dog has truly gone. Dare you step inside Kilmainham Jail, said to be one of the most haunted prisons in Ireland. Located in the drizzly, atmospheric city of Dublin, this one is only for the bravest amongst you. Finally come. Welcome to Kilmainham Jail, Dublin, Ireland. Opening its doors in 1796, this prison has held thousands of Irish men, women and children. The jail is infamously haunted by a number of ghosts, some of which I'll tell you about today. From the most notorious evil offenders to political prisoners and debtors, Many perished within these walls. As you can see, we arrived at the prison in the middle of a storm. We got absolutely soaked wet through on the way in, but it was completely worth it. It added to the atmosphere massively. Now let me tell you, this place is huge and you will get to see a lot of it. But I'm here to specifically tell you about the ghouls that lurk within. Walking down these dimly lit, decaying corridors, you get a vivid picture of what this place once looked like. I lost count how many chills got sent down my back in here. The most infamous ghost that is known to haunt these old corridors is that of James Connolly, responsible for the Irish uprising in 1916. Also referred to as the Easter Rising against the British Empire, Connolly was one of the leaders and was eventually captured and executed by firing squad in the courtyard of this jail, which you will see soon. Connolly and his men fought hard for the freedom of Ireland, and many see it as good fortune if you see his ghost. Now we make our way to the rather impressive Victorian section of the prison. You'll notice the ceiling here is just one large window, which was actually designed so the light of God could hit the prisoners and diminish the devil within. One of my favourite ghost stories from here is when prison governor Dan McGill was spending the night here in the 1960s during a period of renovations. Retiring to bed for the evening, he looked out the window and noticed the lights in the chapel were now on, despite the fact he had just turned all the lights in the jail off. So he grabbed his coat, ventured over to the chapel and turned the lights out. But as he made his way out the door, they flicked back on again. The hairs on the back of Dan's neck stood on end. The room went freezing cold and he heard the whispering of a disembodied male voice. Loud footsteps then began to stomp closer and closer to him until they vanished into thin air and the lights went out.
So that was the brilliant Jack-o'-lantern and his two ghost stories from his collection, which if you go onto TikTok and type in Jack-o'-lantern, you will find them, and all his ghost stories are on there. They are fantastic, and he's a brilliant storyteller as well. Anyway, we'll carry on with the show, and again, thanks Jack for doing all them for me and giving me permission to use them. We'll carry on with the show in a couple of minutes' time. There will be the Common Mystics coming across, but again, I'm going to mention me book. I have to, just in case you missed it at the beginning, and also it's a little bit of an advert for me. If you can, and you want to, if you go across to the Amazon shop and type in Jamie Michael Williams and look for Paranormal Investigation Logbook and Journal, it's a paperback, it's A4 size, that's the size I was looking for there, and it's a complete journal of any paranormal investigations you do. I'll read it out again like I did at the beginning. This paranormal investigation logbook is customized for recording detailed information during investigations. Each entry contains a record sheet, equipment list, weather conditions, moon phase chart, evidence collection, and a section for debunking. Additionally, there is a timeline chart for documenting your photographs, your video footage, and audio recordings, as well as a section for important information. So if you can and you want to use it, please go and buy it for me. It's on Amazon under, again, Paranormal Investigation Logbook and Journal, and easy to find if you put in Jamie Michael Williams. And if you do buy it, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy using it on your investigations. Anyway, after the advert, we'll be going across to the Common Mystics and their boo reviews. So enjoy the advert, and more importantly, enjoy the Common Mystics.
If you'd like to join our Facebook community, why not search for Access Paranormal Radio Podcast? There's always something very spooky going on the Access Paranormal Facebook page.
Hello and welcome to the Boo Review. I'm your host, Jill Stanley. Tonight's story comes to us out of the Boston Globe, Boston, Massachusetts, dated Monday, March 2nd, 1896. And it begins with a tragedy, mystery, and with enduring whispers of suspicion. James Gallagher, a young man in the center of a decades-old train collision in Lexington, Missouri, finds himself on a fateful journey that ended in disaster. For more on this, please welcome Jennifer James at the Bulletin Desk. Jennifer?
Thanks, Jill. In a blind panic, James Gallagher leapt from the moving streetcar onto Harrison Street and jumped through the early evening crowds. The young man was sweaty and disheveled and clearly in distress, seemingly unaware of the other passers-by around him. He careened off a young boy in a sandwich board and then crashed into a trio of businessmen emerging from a diner.
Watch where you're going.
He uttered the briefest of apologies, lurched back to his feet, and rushed off, nearly bowling over an elderly pastor. James ran wildly, glancing about in every direction. He could not see his pursuers, but he could still hear them. Even over the urban tumult of Chicago traffic, he still could hear them. Every time he thought he had gotten away, inevitably, he heard them closing in again and again and again. In his desperation, James pushed through one last throng of pedestrians before racing up the stairs to the Harrison Street police station. He had sworn oaths to his mother that he would never go to the police about what had happened. She had convinced him time and time again that he had nothing to gain and everything to lose. Most of all, she persuaded him that what had happened was not his fault. However, James knew that the ghosts thought differently. For the last 1,488 days, they had made their opinions clear on the matter. It wasn't long ago that James Gallagher was proud of his job as a courier for the telegraph office in Warrensburg, Missouri. He had delivered telegrams to important customers all across that part of Johnson County. Ever since he was first hired, he had tried his best to deliver every message to the right customer as fast as possible. And at age 14, he was taking some of the most urgent messages to come through the office. Messages to the Warrensburg train station concerning railway traffic, filled with alerts about schedule changes, route alterations, delays and cancellations. Warnings about trains barreling along at 50 miles per hour to make up for lost time. Alerts about trains pulling off the main line either to take on water or to drop off mail. The Missouri Pacific was one of the busiest rail lines in this part of the country, with dozens of trains moving north, south, east, and west every single day. The train engineers needed to know what was coming to keep everybody safe. James knew if the engineers missed an alert, it could spell disaster. The couriers were all busy on that Friday, the 15th of June, back in '92. James himself had been out half a dozen times since the morning, with 4 messages in a row for the local Missouri Pacific train station. The latest alert was issued to prevent a collision by instructing 2 trains traveling toward each other to come to a stop at Lamont. There was a side track there where the eastbound number 15 train could refill its water tank, allowing the westbound train number 124 to pass safely. James placed that message into the hand of a signalman at Warrensburg Station, and he assured James that he would signal the train crews to let them know where to stop in time. James had just returned to the office when another telegraph message came through, garbled and incomplete. The operator asked that the message be resent. The message failed a second time, although the telegraph operator could identify that the message was for the railroad. After the operator asked the sender to repeat the message a third time, there was no response for almost half an hour. Someone said the lines were down near Sedalia again, and they were trying to route the messages from Jefferson City around the damaged area. At last, the message came through in its entirety. It warned that the eastbound number 15 train needed to stop 8 miles sooner to avoid a collision with number 124, which was running ahead of schedule. James Gallagher grabbed the message and tore through town toward the train station. In his haste, he crashed his bicycle into a donkey cart. Although James escaped serious injury, the front wheel was bent and useless. The farmer offered to take him to the station, but James knew the old donkey would be too slow, and he set off on foot the rest of the way. His feet pounded on the hard dirt road. His lungs were burning. He could see the station ahead. Would he make it on time? As he watched, an express train raced past the Warrensburg station. As it drew closer, James saw with growing horror the large red number 15 painted on the front. He saw curious faces looking out at him as the 15 rocketed by. Fear overcame his exhaustion, and he charged into the station. His throat was choked with dust, and his heart pounded with panic. He tried to scream, but he couldn't. He sprinted to the signalman and pressed the message into the man's chest. The signalman read it, and his face went white. It was too late. From 3 miles away, they could hear the crash as the two trains collided at a combined speed of 75 miles per hour. Townsfolk in Lexington, the closest to the crash, said it sounded like a cannonade, and several cars were smashed and thrown off the rails down into the Missouri River. Jenny Mitchell and Sylvia Gwynn, 2 little girls aged 7 and 6, were thrown into the water. The 2 girls were never found. 6 others were killed on site, including the engineer of the number 15, who barely had time to set the brakes and could not jump clear. Dozens of other people were hurt, and many succumbed to their injuries. 2 of the cars held racehorses, and most were injured too badly to survive. Along with many people from town, James had rushed to the scene of the terrible accident. As folks pulled survivors from the wreckage, James was shaken by the cries of the injured and dying. He was filled with the growing understanding that this collision was all his fault. If he hadn't crashed into the donkey cart and ruined his bicycle, he might have reached the station in time to get a signal to number 15. All this death and destruction was because he had failed. He gave the engineers the message to stop the trains at the wrong location, then failed to deliver the corrected message in time. James fled. Convinced he would be held liable for the crash and put in jail, he fled Warrensburg and his job at the telegraph office and his entire life in Missouri. It was almost a month later that he awoke from troubled dreams to the sounds of horses whinnying in pain and fear. He sat up in his bed, but no one else seemed to hear the tumult. He sat in darkness, fear rising, when there was a whoosh and a crash right outside the 3rd floor window facing him. It looked and sounded like a train racing by, like the number 15 had raced by him that day in June, and James saw the faces of the dead passengers staring at him accusingly. They knew he failed them, and they had found him. Now, after 4 years of unrelenting torment, James found himself in the Harrison Street police station on Chicago's west side. He was there to confess to his role in the 1892 train collision in Lexington, Missouri, a burden he had carried in silence for far too long. With his confession, he hoped to finally free himself from the ghosts that had haunted him every day since that tragic event. Officer Kelly, the desk sergeant on duty, listened to James's statement with a measured indifference that sharply contrasted with James's desperate pleas. Despite the unfortunate nature of the situation, it was deemed unrelated to local law enforcement in Chicago, the state of Illinois, or any active cases in their jurisdiction. Officer Kelly informed James that no charges would be filed at this time. However, due to his heightened anxiety and evident mental distress, James was placed in temporary custody. The Chicago Police Department would hold him until a space became available at a county sanitarium. Meanwhile, a detective reached out to authorities in Lexington, Missouri, and uncovered a lead. James Gallagher was wanted for questioning in connection with a collision that had occurred 4 years earlier. Acting on this information, the officers at the Harrison Police Station arranged for James to be sent by train to Lexington, where local authorities awaited his arrival for further questioning. However, in a cruel twist of fate, James's train derailed while crossing a perilous bridge en route to Lexington, Missouri. The passenger car plunged into the Missouri River, carrying its occupants into the rushing waters. While many passengers were thrown into the river, James was the sole victim to lose his life in the tragic accident. After his untimely death, Mrs. Gallagher, James's devoted mother, passionately defended her son's innocence in the tragic 1892 train collision at Lexington. She prayed daily for his soul, lost too soon to the vengeful ghosts who unjustly sought their retribution. Back to you, Jill.
Thank you, Jennifer. And there you have it. James Gallagher's story is one of a life cut short amidst swirling accusations and a tragic accidents. The echoes of James' story remain as a reminder of how the past and destiny can collide with devastating consequences. Thank you for joining us, and good night. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Boo Review. I'm your host, Jill Stanley. Jennifer James at the Bulletin Desk brings us the incredible and mysterious account of Jack Ghost, a stowaway turned sailor who owes his survival to an unexplainable shadowy figure, based on an article titled The Ghost from the North American, dated Wednesday, February 7th, 1798, out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Let's unravel the story of courage, freedom, and the unexplained. Jennifer?
Thanks, Jill. In late July 1790, the merchant ship Brute, captained by Samuel Oliver, departed the Caribbean island of Antigua en route to Liverpool. This journey was a familiar one for both the ship and its crew, who routinely navigated this major sugar trade route. The Brute carried harvested and processed sugarcane from Antigua to Britain, fueling a booming sugar industry. For the crew, the steady work was welcomed, and little thought was given to the origins of the sugar they transported. Behind the prosperity of this trade lay the brutal reality of enslaved laborers whose exploitation sustained the industry and made such voyages possible. The seasoned crew knew all too well that July marked the beginning of hurricane season. Many sailors carried talismans, medals, and other charms, clinging to superstition in hopes of warding off peril at sea. At first, these tokens seemed to work. The skies were clear, and the winds were kind. Yet, none could have foreseen the terror that would soon follow. On the third night of the voyage, a junior sailor reported seeing a strange and ominous sight, a shadowy figure on the deck. He called out to it, but it vanished without a sound. The other sailors thought this was an amusing tale at first, until they too began to see the shadowy figure. They rushed to inform the watch, but their lanterns revealed nothing. As days passed, the crew began to fear there was a ghost on board. Sailors reported personal items being moved or going missing. Most of the items were small things: a flask of whiskey, a sack of food, and a pouch of tobacco belonging to the eldest sailor. Knives and other tools were occasionally found misplaced, adding to the growing paranoia among the crew. One sailor swore he left his boots neatly by his hammock, only to find them soaked and tossed on the opposite end of the deck. Each disappearance or disturbance rattled them further. After about 20 days at sea, the Brute was overtaken by a powerful storm, unlike anything the crew had ever faced. All hands were called on deck. Every man scrambled to his position, toiling desperately to keep the ship afloat against the onslaught of nature. The ship rolled wildly on massive waves, towering walls of water kicked up by tremendous, unrelenting winds. Lightning split the sky in blinding flashes, illuminating the chaos for a brief, terrifying moments, while thunder crashed overhead, deafening and unceasing. Each boom seemed to rattle the ship to its very core, until the men began to fear that the sound alone might be enough to shake the Brute to pieces. The air was thick with the salty spray of the sea, soaking everyone to the bone, while the decks grew slick and treacherous under the pounding rain. Gritting their teeth, the crew clung to ropes, rigging, and whatever they could grab, their shouts barely audible over the roar of the storm as they fought to save their ship and their lives. In the midst of their life-or-death struggle with the sea, the ghost made its appearance. It was seen by the whole crew except Captain Oliver. Seaman Wyatt, one of the sailors on the quarterdeck, rushed towards the supposed phantom. At the instant it seemed to be within his grasp, it vanished in a tremendous flash of lightning. The men aloft, swinging 15 feet above the deck to secure the sails, saw the entire scene unfold and declared it could be no other than the devil himself as he sank from Wyatt's grasp in a flash of hellish fire. Suddenly, a deafening crack split the air as a mast came crashing down, slamming into the deck, right where Wyatt had been standing moments before. It missed him by mere inches. The ship endured the storm, battered but intact, as the wind and waves gradually subsided. Yet the crew's unease only deepened. They huddled together, murmuring fearful claims that the devil himself was aboard, and that he had nearly claimed poor Wyatt's life. Would he return, Would he doom them all to watery graves? Driven by their mounting dread, the crew united and approached Captain Oliver, demanding swift action against the evil they believed haunted their vessel. The captain dismissed the idea of ghosts and devils as mere superstition. However, he knew that ignoring his crew's growing fears could spark unrest. To calm their anxieties, he announced a reward for any man or group who could uncover the truth behind the so-called devil. A group of the most pragmatic men organized a search party. Determined and thorough, they set out to inspect every corner, crevice, and hidden space aboard the Brute. At last, after shifting more than 40 hogsheads of sugar, the searchers uncovered what they had been looking for. Tucked away inside an empty water cask was a stowaway named Jack. He was promptly brought before the captain, where he recounted his extraordinary tale. Jack had been enslaved on Antigua since childhood. On the night the merchant ship prepared for departure, he was sent to St. John's Harbor to gather turtle grass using a canoe. As Jack worked, he noticed the Brute loading supplies and realized this could be his chance to escape to England. Paddling silently towards the stern, he secured a rope tied to the rail. To cover his tracks, Jack left his jacket in the canoe and set it adrift, ensuring it would be discovered the next morning alongside the turtle grass. He hoped this would lead others to believe that he had drowned during the night, abandoning any effort to search for him. Hearing Jack's extraordinary tale, the crew exhaled in relief, their tension giving way to amusement at Jack's audacity. Laughter rippled through the group as they realized the devil was not among them. They poured grog and raised a cheerful toast to Jack's boldness. The captain distributed the promised reward to the men, but not all shared in the merriment. Some sailors, still unsettled by the chaos of Jack's antics, pressed on in silence. Others, less forgiving, seethed with anger, threatening to toss Jack overboard as fodder for the sharks. Their fury stemmed from the reckless decision Jack made to climb onto the deck during the violent storm that had nearly claimed poor Wyatt's life. At this, Jack's face went ashen, and he swore on McGillicuddy's water-logged pocket Bible that he had not been on deck that night. But maybe, Jack suggested, it had been the Dark Angel. Jack recounted then that from his very first night aboard the ship, he had received unexpected help. A shadowy figure had guided him to a hiding spot nestled behind a towering stack of barrels of sugar. The figure never spoke a word, but appeared occasionally, warning Jack whenever he was in danger of being discovered. For nearly a month, Jack evaded detection by the other sailors, thanks to the figure's silent vigilance. Believing it to be an angel, Jack found solace and safety in its presence. The captain and his crew were bewildered by Jack's tale. The captain insisted on knowing which sailor had acted as this mysterious angel. Yet, no sailor stepped forward. Reflecting on that stormy night, many of them realized that had the mysterious figure not appeared on deck at that exact moment, Wyatt would have undoubtedly been crushed by the broken mast. In any event, the men never spoke of this again. Jack was hired as a sailor for the rest of the journey, earning the nickname Jack Ghost from the crew. And upon reaching Liverpool, he began a new chapter of his life as a free man. Back to you, Jill.
And there you have it, the tale of Jack Ghost, a man whose courage was only matched by the mysterious surroundings of his survival. From all of us here at the Boo Review, have a great evening. The Boo Review is a Common Mystics media production in association with Access Paranormal. Story by Dennis Brose. Editing by Yokai Audio, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Want more mystics? Check out our website, commonmystics.net. Follow us on all the socials at Common Mystics Pod. Stay in touch at Patreon/Common Mystics.
A huge thank you to the Common Mystics who are all the way over there in America for taking the time out each month to record these fantastic Boo reviews exclusively for our show. I'm hoping to catch up with Jill and Jennifer very soon and chat to them about their latest adventures and what they've been up to. It's always a pleasure to hear from their fascinating experiences. As we near the end of tonight's episode, I want to take a moment to say a huge thank you to everyone who's made the show possible. Junior Paranormal Events for their excellent spooky adventures, Jack-o'-lantern for his brilliant collection of ghost stories, and of course the Common Mystics for their incredible Boo reviews. How lucky am I to have these on the show? Incredible. Anyway, coming up is another new one, but that will be revealed soon. We'll have a new slot. But I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing these amazing stories, investigations and interviews with everyone. Thank you for tuning in and being part of the show. I'll be back again next week at the same time, 9 PM, from Access Paranormal. Good night.